Hey guys, welcome to the video. We are going to be talking about the running back position for week one, who overperformed and who underperformed. Let's get to it. Let's start with our underachievers from week one. I have Chase Brown on my fantasy roster, so this one sticks out to me a little more. He still had a good fantasy finish with 13.10. I have to be too disappointed with that, but he did get about 10 of those points in the first quarter, so that's where some of my frustration comes. I thought he would have boomed a little bit bigger than that with such a strong start. He had 21 attempts for only 43 yards. That's just over 2 a carry. That's not good, but that'll happen against a stout Browns defense on an offense that starts slow every single year. So with those 21 attempts on the ground and 3 through the air, 24 opportunities, isn't first in the league for most opportunities at the running back position. Might be second or third, though. I know Christian McCaffrey got 31 to start the season. But whenever you have a player getting 24 attempts in a game, 13 is going to be a low score. So I expect Chase Brown to have a good bounce back week in week two against Jacksonville. Number 2, Ashton Jeanty. Here you are. All right, Ashton Jeanty at 12 points, which you're not going to be upset about that. But if he doesn't sneak into the end zone, you're probably going to be pretty pissed that you took Ashton Jeanty. In our league, he actually went at the 2-9 spot, I believe, which is later in the draft, but he's usually going at the 1-2 turn. Per draft capital, you're going to be kind of pissed off with the 6-point week. Luckily, he did fall into the end zone. 19 for 38 is disgustingly bad. So you can only expect for him to do better than that in week two. So I think 12 points is a very nice floor for Ashton Jeanty, but you can expect more than 12 points on any given week for the RB1 of the Las Vegas Raiders. Omarion Hampton, only 8.10 points. It's not a complete stinker, but it's pretty darn close. I thought he'd be more involved in the passing game, especially since Herbert threw for so many attempts, but only 2 catches on 2 targets for 13 yards is a little bit lower than you would expect. 15 attempts for 48 yards on the ground is garbage, although I did watch the full game and I did like the way he was running the rock. He looked explosive, he was hitting the holes, he just ended up facing the number 1 rush defense in the league. And so first week of the season, I think you can just say this is a one-off. Omarion Hampton is very involved. He had 17 opportunities, so week 2 should be much kinder to the rookie. Isaiah Pacheco, this one was odd to me. Only 5 attempts on the ground, 3 targets, only catching 2 of them. 4.8 yards, and I assume he's being started in most leagues as an RB2. Maybe you benched him, in which case you're very lucky. But I expected a lot more out of him than 4.8 for how hungry he looks when he's running the ball. You know, stomping his feet into the ground like a fucking Bronco. Anyway, 4.8, just not going to get it done. Also, too few opportunities. I don't know what that's about. I think maybe they were passing the ball more than they were able to, or able to be hoping to. So he got game scripted out a little bit, but he is coming off of an injury from last season. I would have thought he'd worked through that now and been pretty close to 100%. So I think this is just a random off week for Pacheco. Look to him as a trade target if you're a Pacheco believer. I am. I won't be trading for him because I've got 3 fantastic running backs in Henry, Chase Brown, and James Cook. But Pacheco should have brighter days ahead. Lastly, we're going to look at David Montgomery for players that underperformed in week 1. 37 snap percentage. That's about where he's always at. It's what's going to happen when you're sharing the backfield with Jahmyr Gibbs. He still had 15 opportunities as the RB2 on the offense. That had a horrible week 1 performance. All in all, no touchdowns except for the last minute one to Tesla by Jared Goff. So 11 for 25, not going to happen very often. He's a much more efficient runner than that. He did catch all 4 of his targets, saving you from a complete stinker of a game. But you can look to see David Montgomery rebound this week and be a very high floor player week in, week out. We talked about our underperformers. Now let's get to our overperformers. Somebody I hated in the draft season, but apparently he's their starting running back and not really splitting work. He was on the field 77% of the time, which is, that's what you want to see, especially out of a player who I didn't think was going to be seeing that kind of snap percentage. 15 attempts on the ground, 3 targets, good for 2 touchdowns and 64 total yards. I don't think you're going to see too many games like this for Javonte Williams throughout the season. I could be wrong, but I'll plant my flag and say I'm not a Javonte Williams believer. I did not like the tape I've seen the last couple seasons after his injury on the Broncos, and it's not every day that you're gonna have 2 rushing touchdowns, especially on a offense that is more geared toward the passing game. So this could be a good week to try to get rid of him. I don't see him spiking like this too often. 2 touchdowns is hard to come by. Travis Etienne, I boldly said was the worst pick in our draft. I think he was taken in the 6th or 7th round, so still kind of staying behind that draft position. Don't love it. But that was before Tank Bigsby got traded away. So the backfield is probably more or less 80 to 90% going to be Travis Etienne's, followed by Bashal Tutin, who's going to be probably picking up the rest of the slack. 16 touches on the ground, 3 in the air. I feel like Travis Etienne was a huge bust last year, and I'm shocked to see how well his week 1 went. But if he's the guy in the backfield, he's going to be a weekly RB2 start with potentially even RB1 upside, I hate to say. But can't do anything but root for the guy and hope he makes the most of his opportunities. I still think 18.6 is a bit of a spike week, but there could be a lot more weeks just like it. Dylan Sampson, one of the bigger outliers and surprises of week 1 at 17.3 fantasy points on 20 freaking opportunities. That doesn't make sense considering Jerome Ford was the starter. And the funny thing about this guy is he didn't score a touchdown. Jerome Ford didn't score a touchdown. It was actually the 3rd stringer, Sanders. I guess they have a second Sanders on the roster, who had 2 carries and he got in the end zone. So Dylan Sampson, the most exciting part about this is the 8 targets, 8 catches, and 64 yards. If he doesn't have any work on the ground, which he did, 12 attempts, that's still a really good game. But here's the thing, Quinshon Judkins is coming back. I don't know if that'll be week 2 or 3 or whatever, but he signed a deal, which means he's on his way. And there's just too much going on in that backfield that I like for Dylan Sampson to be a weekly start candidate. 17.3 by the end of the season might be his highest week. But that work in the passing game is some real stuff. So if you're in a pinch and he's on your waiver wire and it's a bye week or something, he might be somebody that you can consider throwing in. J.K. Dobbins. The narrative around him is he starts the season fast, kind of like last year for the Chargers, and then he kind of tapers off. Not to mention there is rookie R.J. Harvey behind him, who is looking explosive and ready to go. 16 attempts on the ground and a 2 in the air is good for 18 in all. I like that a lot. He did get a touchdown, so without that touchdown, you're not too happy with the week. You'd like to see a little bit more yardage, but this is he might be the lead back right now, but I look to see the snap percentages flip a little bit more in the favor of RJ Harvey, even though we're already seeing a 53% snap percentage Now, I don't know what Harvey's is. I guess maybe we could take a look. Let's find Harvey, RJ Harvey. Week 1 snap percentage, only 29. So yeah, that's got to shoot up. And look at that, 6 attempts for 70 yards for RJ Harvey. That is freaking explosive. So as well as J.K. Dobbins did do, and as good as I think he could be, RJ Harvey's posing too much of a threat for me to think that J.K. Dobbins is going to be a weekly person that you're going to be starting. Last and certainly least, because he's a second-year player, that is clearly not the starter, Trey Benson. While he could be a great player if he is in the starting role, he's not. 8 attempts for 69 yards. Bravo. I don't think he gets 69 yards again on 8 carries next week. That's all I'll say. I think John Connor, right? John Connor? Why does it sound wrong? Anyway, dude's the guy on the roster. Let's look him up here. James Conner. There we go. Why am I being a doofus? James Conner outsnapped him by quite a bit. I think Benson's was 33. You got 33 from Conner. Or 65 from Conner. Horrible yardage on the ground, but is that guy. He had 1 touchdown last week. I don't think Trey Benson's going to steal his starting position. At most, Benson will just muck it up and make neither of them startable. But I think for now, I would hold off on Benson and not expect too much from him in the future while he is a solid stash. Let's just take a brief look around the league. All these players had a pretty solid week. You're not going to be too excited or too upset about 14 points across the board from all these players, 13, 15, whatever. I didn't mention Pollard because I think 18 for 60 is probably what you're going to get from him. And if he falls in the end zone, it's going to be a great week from Pollard. You'll probably see a little bit more in the passing game. TreVeyon Henderson, he's on the snap count, or not exactly, but shared backfield. So you don't know how much you're going to get out of him. Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, good weeks from them. Walker, I just feel like I did not want to talk too much about him because of how sad his ordeal actually is. I do think this is underachieving, but I didn't bring him up because I think we could see a lot of weeks like this. He's not the most efficient runner. He gets hit in the backfield a lot, and he misses a lot of games. So this is an underachieving week for him, but I unfortunately think this could be a common occurrence in the future. Byron Tracy and Swift also had meh weeks, but I think that's kind of what you can expect from them. I do expect Swift to pick it up next week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Drop a like and comment. Thank you for watching.